Episode 2 of Peacemaker Season 2 is finally here. This will be my overall spoiler thoughts on the episode as a whole. Before we get into that, if you're into Marvel, DC, horror, you name it, this is definitely the channel for you. We're trying to hit 1,000 subs before the end of the year, so if you don't mind hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel, and you're way into checking out this video, it would be greatly appreciated. Now, getting into the episode itself, I love it. I had a really good time. I love that they started off the episode with the 8 months back, giving us the kind of Rick Flag finally discovering who killed his son, and now his main priority on his journey is to get back at Peacemaker. I love that. And of course, we got a little more with Amelia Harcourt. I love the dynamic between her and Chris and how she is on this, I feel like she's going to have a really good arc because she's on this really self-destructive path right now. And I think by the end of the series, she's going to be a completely different character. I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to go. And then, of course, the whole bit with, Vigilante and Chris Peacemaker as they're disposing of the other Chris's body from the other universe that they killed in episode 1. And instead of just burying the body or doing something like that, they did the typical, what you would expect Peacemaker to do, get some saws, chop up the body, and throw it in an inferno, and call it a day. And throughout the entire episode, I was wondering, does the other universe not realize that their Peacemaker is missing? Because our Chris just goes back to his universe and acts like nothing happens for the most part. He does kind of have some, freak out in the shower when he, because he's wiping the blood of himself off since he killed his other self. So there is that, but for the most part, he kind of just goes back to normal. He has a nice party on the rooftop with all of his friends, with, Adrian and Amelia, and just things are just normal. So I was like, does the other universe not realize that? And that finally gets answered at the end of the episode, because this episode ends with, of course, Chris getting really drunk, as usual, and just waltzing into that universe, and you just hear everybody in the background saying, where's he at? Where's Chris at? And it's them trying to find their Peacemaker. So that was kind of the cliffhanger for this episode. So now we're finally going forward, going to dive deep into that, of him kind of living the life of the other Chris and trying to finally realizing what it's like to be loved, to be appreciated, and have the life that he feels like he deserves. And you know what? I'm going to say, he does deserve it. I love Peacemaker. John Cena, Chris, I love it. He deserves the best. He is crazy. He's done a lot of horrible things, but he's trying to right his wrongs, and I think he deserves, at least to have the girl. At least give him the girl. That's all he really wants at the end of the day. But yeah, like I said, this episode was a lot of fun. My favorite part was, of course, the part where Eagly completely kills all those agents. It doesn't kill them all, but completely, beats the crap out of all those agents, because there is a new agent that gets introduced, and he's just weird the entire time. And while Peacemaker's at the party, he decides to break in with his crew to try to find out what Chris is up to, and then to discover that there's something going on behind that door. But before they can open the door to get to the portal, Eagly, of course, flies in, and it's a whole dope-ass scene with Eagly, getting the job done. And another reason why I love this bird and the whole bird blindness bit that they got going on with, the agent not knowing the difference between birds, and birds freak him out, and he can't tell the difference between a bald eagle and a duck. I just find it all hilarious. This episode was not as strong as the first one, but it's definitely added to it, and it's got me excited to see where the rest of the story is going to unfold at. But overall, I think this series is a lot of fun. It's got me more excited for the future of DC. We got Lanterns coming out, Supergirl, and apparently Clayface. I don't know if that's been 100% official yet, because things always change. But this series got me very, very excited, and I love it, and I hate it at the same time. How each project's gonna feel like it's not part of the universe, but it is. So Peacemaker does not feel like Superman at all, and they extended the whole orgy scene like they did from the first one to this one, because he wakes up and he doesn't realize that all these people are in his living room. So it's not as long, and it's not as brutal as the first one, but he just wakes up to a bunch of naked people in his living room. So that was interesting, but that doesn't feel like that would happen in the Superman movie. So I'm a fan of everything kind of feeling, linear, and it feels like it's in the same universe. And James Gunn said his movies are not going to be that way. So I'm curious. On paper, I don't know if I like that or not. I kind of, like I said, I like everything to be kind of coherent throughout the entire universe itself. But he might change my mind on it, because Peacemaker and Superman feel like totally different things. And if you took your kid to see Superman and you think that they can watch Peacemaker, absolutely not. Do not let your kid watch Peacemaker. Hopefully the next things like Lantern, and obviously Supergirl, and maybe even Clayface. I don't know how they're going to play that out, but as long as it's not horror based, which I can see James Gunn turning that into a complete horror film, you should be okay letting your kids see that one. But hopefully he can change my mind on that, because like I said, I don't know how I feel about everything kind of feeling different, because Peacemaker feels completely different than Superman. But I might like it at the end of the day. But back to Peacemaker, this episode, like I said, was a lot of fun. It was that nice heartfelt scene on the rooftop with all of them finally getting together. Chris is trying so desperately to, connect with Hardcore. We don't know what happened on the boat yet. I'm hoping that we can figure that out soon, because I keep leaning on what happened. Something happened with them on the boat, which we kind of all can assume what happened with them. Something romantic or something physical happened between those two. And Chris is holding on to that, and Hardcore doesn't want to, from what I gather from her character, she doesn't want to have to feel, she doesn't know what it's like to feel, or she's struggling with the idea of somebody loving her or something, because like I said, she's on this very self-destructive path, and Chris is trying to show her love and compassion and wants to help her, and she's just not having it right now. So like I said, I'm very interested to see where that dynamic's going to go. And yeah, guys, this episode was a lot of fun. I'm excited for episode 3. I know a lot of the scoopers or the reviewers and all that kind of stuff got to see the first 5 episodes. James kind of didn't let them see the last 3, because especially episodes 6 and 8 have some heavy spoilers in it that James is super excited about. So I'm very intrigued. Again, we got another Batman reference when it comes to Gotham that was brought up. How they were supposed to move to Gotham, and she decided to stay here for, to work with Peacemaker, of course. And that is, of course, the Latoya, I think of her name. Yeah, Latoya. She was supposed to go to live in Gotham with a partner, but they decided to stay here to work with Chris. And again, I'm holding on to it. It would be so cool to get the Batman reveal in Peacemaker Season 2. Not only would it bring viewership to the show itself, I think seeing it on screen, whoever's going to portray Batman on screen, already in the suit, already in the scene, will help people, kind of accept who the new Batman is, instead of just putting a name and a face on it and then waiting 2 years from now to movie and be like, okay, yeah, they can do it. If you just show them right off rip and the finale of the show that this is Batman and a nice action scene, people can already it'll be easier for people to accept it. And like I said, it'll bring viewership back to Peacemaker Season 2, and it'll just bring more hype to the DC universe and the upcoming Batman. I could be completely wrong, but I really, really hope that we get our Batman reveal in this show, because there's so many Easter eggs for it. With all that being said, guys, like I said, I love this episode. I didn't go too in depth with it because, like I said, not too much happened. Just that there was that big bit with, Eagly, and then Chris and Vigilante chopping up the old Peacemaker's body and then throwing it in the furnace, and then the Rick Flag stuff. Those are like the main things that happened in this episode, and like I said, I enjoyed it. Wasn't as strong as the first one, but most of the time that's not the case anyway. But all that being said, guys, now I want to hear from you guys. How did you guys feel about this episode? Are you excited for the show like I am, or excited for the future of the DCU? And what is your overall thoughts on it? Do you agree with me that, it's kind of weird that everything feels different? Would you prefer that everything kind of feels the same as far as every project, or do you like the idea of every project feeling completely different? That way, like, it can be its own little standalone thing. It doesn't have to be part of the overall story. It's like its own thing. I don't know. That's just me. I wish I would prefer everything to be linear. But that's just me. Let me know down in the comments how you guys feel. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button, subscribe, channel your way out. And I'll see you guys in the next video.